London, 1816. Lady Annabella Norwood arranged her evening gloves with practiced precision, her fingers moving with the mechanical efficiency that had governed most of her life. At 24, she had navigated 7 London seasons without securing a husband, not for lack of offers, but rather from a stubborn adherence to practicality. Another evening of tedious conversation and transparent matchmaking, she murmured to her reflection. The woman who stared back possessed the requisite qualities for marriage: fine features, a respectable dowry, and impeccable bloodlines. Yet Annabella's intelligent eyes revealed a mind perpetually calculating, forever assessing the world as a series of transactions. Her lady's maid adjusted the silk ribbons on her evening gown of pale blue, designed to complement without drawing undue attention. "You look lovely, my lady," the maid offered. "Loveliness is secondary to suitability, Morris. Beauty fades, advantageous connections endure." Annabella recited this like a catechism, a belief inherited from her father, the Earl of Norwood, whose own marriage had been a masterpiece of strategic alliance. A soft knock preceded her younger sister's entrance. "Belle, are you philosophizing again?" "Mamma says the carriage awaits." Catherine, barely 18 and gloriously untroubled by practical considerations, twirled in her new gown. "Lord Kensington will be attending tonight's ball. They say he has returned from abroad with a fortune and intends to secure a bride before Michaelmas." Annabella smoothed her skirts. How efficient of him to approach matrimony with such directness. "I approve, though I pity the woman who becomes the object of his quest. Marriage without affection is preferable to marriage with its fleeting distraction, but being pursued as a mere acquisition must be particularly degrading." Catherine laughed. "Only you could make marriage sound like a business merger, Belle. The most important merger one makes in life, particularly for women with limited options for independence." Annabella retrieved her fan. "Let us not keep the Earl of Chatterton waiting. His ball will at least provide excellent refreshments if not stimulating conversation." The Chatterton ballroom blazed with hundreds of candles, the light fracturing through crystal chandeliers to illuminate the cream of London society. Annabella observed the familiar ritual: matrons evaluating potential matches, young ladies fluttering eyelashes behind fans, gentlemen assessing dowries while pretending interest in musical accomplishments. Lady Annabella, the Countess of Chatterton, greeted her with the particular warmth reserved for unmarried ladies of good family. "You must meet our distinguished guest. Lord Kensington has returned after 5 years abroad, managing his late uncle's West Indies properties." Before Annabella could formulate a polite demurral, she found herself being presented to a tall gentleman whose broad shoulders strained against impeccable evening attire. "The Marquess of Kensington, may I present Lady Annabella Norwood, daughter of the Earl of Norwood." The Marquis bowed, and as he straightened, Annabella confronted a face of surprising character. Strong features arranged with asymmetrical charm rather than classical perfection, eyes of startling green intensity, and a mouth that suggested humor despite its current formality. "Lady Annabella," he said, his voice deeper than fashion dictated, "your reputation precedes you." She arched an eyebrow. "Does it indeed? How troubling." Reputations often bear little resemblance to reality. In your case, the rumors of exceptional intelligence appear accurate, if that first response is representative. A smile threatened the corners of his mouth. "Intelligence in a woman is like a jewel in a fish, Lord Kensington, surprising to discover and generally unwanted by those seeking to make a meal of it." Instead of the polite discomfort such candor usually elicited, the Marquis laughed, a genuine sound that turned several heads. "A perspective both unique and refreshing, Lady Annabella. Would you honor me with the next dance?" The quadrille placed them in frequent contact, providing opportunities for conversation that Annabella found, against all expectation, engaging. "Your extended absence from London society suggests a certain independence of spirit, my lord, she observed as they circled each other. Or perhaps merely duties that required attention elsewhere. Not all of us have the luxury of following inclination over obligation. Indeed not. Particularly those bearing titles with attendant responsibilities. His eyes assessed her with unsettling perception. You speak as one familiar with duty's constraints. All women are, Lord Kensington. Our lives consist of obligations dressed as choices. When the dance concluded, he returned her to her mother with perfect correctness, but whispered as he bowed, perhaps some obligations may prove less burdensome than anticipated. Over the following weeks, London buzzed with speculation about the Marquess of Kensington's intentions. He appeared at every event Annabella attended, soliciting dances with pointed regularity and engaging her in conversations of increasing intimacy. You collect first editions, he remarked one evening at Lady Whitfield's musicale. A curious hobby for a lady. Books maintain their value and offer companionship without demands, Annabella replied. A sound investment of both funds and attention. You approach even pleasure mathematically, Lady Annabella. Mathematics governs the universe, my lord. Why should human interactions be exempt? His lips curved. Because the heart occasionally defies calculation. A convenient fallacy perpetuated by poets and the perpetually disappointed. On a rare afternoon when propriety permitted them a turnabout Hyde Park with only her maid following at a discreet distance, Lord Kensington broached a subject Annabella had anticipated. I have been considering my situation with increasing clarity, he began. At 32, I must secure the succession. My estates require a mistress of intelligence and composure. Annabella maintained her even pace. Very sensible considerations. I find myself drawn to your practical nature, Lady Annabella. We share an understanding of duty's primacy. A refreshing perspective in a gentleman. Most prefer to disguise necessity behind flowery sentiments. He stopped walking, turning to face her directly. Would such sentiments sway you? Poetic declarations and passionate avowals? They would insult my intelligence, my lord. I value honesty above romantic artifice. Then honestly, I believe we would suit admirably. Our temperaments complement, our stations are compatible, and I respect your mind, a rare quality I never expected to discover in a potential wife. Annabella studied him, noting the controlled intensity behind his composed expression. You offer a marriage of convenience bolstered by mutual respect. I offer a partnership, he corrected. Built on stronger foundations than transient emotion. She nodded, a curious sensation fluttering beneath her ribs, not disappointment at his practical approach, which mirrored her own philosophy, but something more complex. I shall consider your proposition, Lord Kensington. The following morning, her father summoned Annabella to his study, his expression indicating satisfaction with uncommon developments. Kensington has requested a private audience, he announced without preamble. His intentions appear serious. Yes, father. He has intimated as much. The Earl studied his eldest daughter. You've shown sense in rejecting previous offers from men of insufficient standing or character. Kensington represents an excellent match, title, fortune, and by all accounts, a man of principle. His estates border our northern properties. A convenient geographical alignment, Annabella observed dryly. Don't be flippant, daughter. Such considerations matter. The merger of our lands would create one of the largest continuous holdings in the county. Annabella suppressed a smile at the unintentional echo of her earlier words to Catherine. I understand the advantages. Lord Kensington and I share an appreciation for practical considerations in matrimony. Her father nodded approvingly. You will accept, then? I shall give his offer the serious consideration it merits." When Lord Kensington called formally the following afternoon, Annabella received him in the morning room, chaperoned by her mother, who strategically discovered urgent correspondence requiring attention in the adjoining chamber, within earshot but allowing the illusion of privacy. He stood as she entered, his usual composure momentarily disrupted by something that might have been nervousness had Annabella believed him susceptible to such emotions. "Lady Annabella," he began after they were seated, "I hope you have considered my proposition." "I have, my lord." "Your offer is logical and advantageous to both parties." His expression remained carefully neutral. "And your response?" "I find no rational objection. Our temperaments appear compatible, our stations complement each other, and we share a pragmatic approach to life's obligations." "Then you accept?" A pulse visibly quickened at his temple. "I do, with the understanding that ours will be a partnership founded on mutual respect rather than transient emotion." He exhaled slowly. "Precisely. I have no patience for the volatile nature of passion. I seek a wife of steady character and intelligent mind." After a pause, he added, "Though I would not have you think me incapable of appropriate affection. I shall endeavor to be a considerate husband." "And I a dutiful wife," Annabella replied, surprised by the strange hollow sensation beneath her composed words. The announcement of their engagement triggered precisely the social response Annabella had anticipated. Congratulations from those who approved of such a sensible match, barely concealed disappointment from mothers with unmarried daughters, and the particular attention reserved for a woman who had secured one of the season's most eligible bachelors. Less expected was Lord Kensington's behavior following their formal understanding. He called daily, brought books he thought might interest her, and demonstrated an attentiveness that occasionally bordered on the sentimental he claimed to disdain. "You need not perform romantic gestures, my lord," she remarked when he presented her with a rare volume of astronomical calculations. "Our arrangement is understood." Something flashed in his eyes. "Is it not possible I simply wish to please you?" "Possible but unnecessary. I accepted your offer knowing its nature." "Its nature?" "A practical alliance beneficial to both parties." He studied her with an intensity that made her uncomfortably aware of her quickening pulse. "Is that all you believe I offer, Lady Annabella?" Before she could formulate a response that wouldn't betray her confusion, they were interrupted by the arrival of another visitor, Lord Alexander Pembroke, a charming widower recently returned to society after a period of mourning. "I hope I don't intrude," Lord Pembroke said with a smile that suggested he didn't particularly care if he did. "I wish to offer my congratulations to the future Marchioness of Kensington." Annabella noted the immediate stiffening of her fiancé's posture. "Lord Pembroke, how kind! May I present the Marquess of Kensington?" The men exchanged the barest courtesies before Lord Pembroke turned his attention fully to Annabella. "I must express my profound disappointment at learning of your engagement. Had I returned to London mere weeks earlier, I might have secured the treasure Kensington has claimed." "Lady Annabella is not a commodity to be secured, Pembroke," Kensington said, his voice carrying an edge Annabella had never heard before. "Merely a figure of speech," Pembroke replied smoothly. "Though one cannot help admiring a lady of such beauty and accomplishment. You are fortunate indeed, Kensington, to have won such a prize." Throughout the ensuing conversation, Annabella observed with interest the increasing tension in her fiancé's manner. His responses grew terser, his posture more rigid, particularly when Lord Pembroke made references to their shared childhood in neighbouring counties. "Lady Annabella and I attended the same dancing master in our youth," Pembroke reminisced. "Even then, she moved with incomparable grace. I believe you attempted a waltz once, did you not? Before it was considered proper?" Annabella smiled politely. "I recall no such impropriety, Lord Pembroke." No? Perhaps it was merely my wishful imagination. His smile suggested otherwise. When Lord Pembroke finally took his leave, promising to call again soon, Lord Kensington remained standing, his expression thunderous. "You appear discomposed, my lord," Annabella observed. Pembroke's manner borders on inappropriate for addressing an engaged woman. He was merely being sociable. We have known each other since childhood, though not with the intimacy he implies. His intentions were transparent. Kensington's jaw tightened. He deliberately provoked. To what purpose? Our engagement is announced. Some men view such announcements as challenges rather than declarations. He hesitated, then added with careful neutrality, "Does his attention please you?" The question startled her. Lord Pembroke is an amusing conversationalist, but his opinions hold no particular weight with me. I see. He bowed formally. I have business that requires my attention this afternoon. Until tomorrow, Lady Annabella. His abrupt departure left her puzzled, analyzing their exchange with the methodical precision she applied to all social interactions. Lord Kensington's reaction suggested possessiveness, an emotion inconsistent with their mutual understanding of marriage as a practical arrangement. In the following weeks, Lord Pembroke appeared with increasing frequency at events the engaged couple attended. His attentions to Annabella remained within the boundaries of propriety but carried an undercurrent of admiration that drew notice, particularly from her fiancé. At Lady Jersey's ball, Lord Pembroke solicited a dance that social custom prevented Annabella from refusing. As they moved through the patterns of the cotillion, he spoke in low tones. "You appear well matched with Kensington in temperament. Both so controlled, so proper." "Thank you for the observation, Lord Pembroke." It wasn't entirely a compliment, Lady Annabella. His smile held challenge. "One wonders if either of you permits yourselves to feel anything beyond measured approval. Not all of us consider emotional volatility a virtue. There exists a vast territory between volatility and the Arctic composure you both maintain." His eyes held hers as they circled each other. "Though I've begun to suspect Kensington's restraint may be more performance than nature." "What prompts such speculation?" "The way he watches when other men approach you." "There's nothing calculated in that response, I assure you." Annabella glanced toward her fiancé, stationed by the refreshment table. His posture appeared relaxed, but his eyes tracked their movements with unwavering attention. "You imagine rivalries where none exist, Lord Pembroke." "Do I? Then he would have no objection to my calling at Berkeley Square tomorrow? I've acquired a volume of celestial observations I believe would interest you. Your fiancé mentioned your fascination with astronomy." The dance ended before she could formulate a response that wouldn't reveal her confusion. Lord Kensington appeared at her side with suspicious promptness, reclaiming her with a proprietary hand at her elbow. "You appear deep in conversation," he observed as they moved toward her mother. Lord Pembroke was discussing astronomical texts. "Indeed? I wasn't aware of his scientific interests." "Nor was I." "Apparently, you mentioned my studies to him." Kensington's step faltered momentarily. "I may have done, in passing." Pembroke has a habit of extracting information while appearing merely sociable. Before they reached Lady Norwood, Annabella paused. "He intends to call tomorrow with a book he believes would interest me." Her fiancé's expression remained carefully neutral, but his fingers tightened imperceptibly on her arm. "How considerate." "Would you object?" she asked directly. "Object?" "To a gentleman bringing scientific materials to my betrothed." His voice held perfect control. "That would suggest insecurity inconsistent with our understanding." "Precisely my thought." Yet the following afternoon, Lord Kensington arrived at Berkeley Square a conspicuous half-hour before Lord Pembroke's expected visit, carrying a package wrapped in brown paper. "I thought you might enjoy this recent publication from Edinburgh," he explained, presenting her with a slim volume on lunar observations. "The author proposes several theories that align with your own calculations." Annabella accepted the book with genuine pleasure. "How thoughtful. I wasn't expecting you today. I found myself at liberty and thought to call." His casual tone contrasted with the intensity of his gaze. "I can leave before Pembroke arrives if you prefer privacy for your scientific discussions." "That won't be necessary," Annabella replied, studying him with growing curiosity. "Unless you find his company objectionable." "Not at all. Though I wonder at his sudden interest in astronomy." When Lord Pembroke was announced, his momentary surprise at finding Kensington already present quickly transformed into amusement. "What fortuitous timing," he remarked, presenting Annabella with his own package. "I've brought the celestial atlas I mentioned, though I see I'm not the only one catering to your intellectual pursuits today." The ensuing hour progressed with superficial pleasantries overlaying palpable tension. Each gentleman demonstrated extensive knowledge of subjects Annabella favored, referenced conversations they had previously shared, and positioned themselves as particularly attuned to her interests, all while maintaining scrupulous politeness toward each other. After Lord Pembroke departed, Kensington remained silent for several moments before speaking with careful neutrality. "He seems quite determined to cultivate your good opinion." "Lord Pembroke enjoys intellectual discussion, as do I. Among other pursuits, I'm sure." He stood abruptly. "I should take my leave. My steward arrives from Kent this evening with estate matters requiring attention." Annabella rose as well. "Before you go, I've been meaning to ask about the settlement details. My father mentioned provisions for my independent income, but the specifics remain unclear." "Independent income?" His brow furrowed. "Yes, of course. The standard arrangements." "I'd prefer more than standard arrangements, my lord. I wish to maintain control over my personal inheritance rather than having it absorbed into the Kensington holdings." He studied her with suddenly sharpened attention. "May I ask the reason for this concern? Do you anticipate requiring financial independence within our marriage?" "I anticipate nothing specific. I merely prefer security." "Security." He repeated the word as if tasting its implications. "From what?" "The future is unpredictable, Lord Kensington. Circumstances change. People change." "Do they?" "I was under the impression we both valued consistency and rational planning above capricious alterations." Annabella met his gaze directly. "Rational planning includes contingencies for unforeseen developments. Such as discovering your husband inadequate? Or perhaps developing affections elsewhere?" His voice remained level, but a muscle worked in his jaw. "Are you having second thoughts about our arrangement, Lady Annabella?" "Not at all. I merely wish to ensure practical matters are addressed properly." "Practical matters," he echoed. "Of course. I shall have my solicitor provide the documents for your review." He bowed stiffly. "Good day, Lady Annabella." In the days that followed, a subtle shift occurred in their interactions. Lord Kensington's visits continued with punctilious regularity, but a new reserve coloured his manner. Meanwhile, Lord Pembroke's attentions increased, his calls and conversation growing more personal. "I've often wondered," he remarked during one such visit, "why a woman of your intelligence and beauty waited so long to accept an offer. Surely you received many before Kensington." Annabella maintained her composure. "I had no interest in marriage without compatible temperaments and mutual respect. Admirable criteria. Though one might hope for passion as well as practicality. Passion fades, Lord Pembroke. Compatibility endures. Does it? His smile held challenge. Or does supposed compatibility merely mask the absence of deeper feeling? The question lingered uncomfortably in Annabella's mind after his departure, particularly when contrasted with her fiancé's increasingly formal demeanor. Where once their conversations had flowed easily between topics of mutual interest, now Kensington seemed to measure each word, as if guarding against revealing too much. The change became unmistakable during a dinner party at her family's home, when Lord Pembroke, invited at her mother's insistence despite Annabella's reservations, directed his considerable charm toward her throughout the evening. "Your fiancé appears distracted tonight," he observed as they briefly stood near the pianoforte while Catherine played. "Estate troubles, perhaps?" Annabella glanced toward Kensington, deep in conversation with her father. "His responsibilities are considerable, as will be yours, as his Marchioness." Pembroke lowered his voice. "One hopes he appreciates the sacrifice you make in accepting such a serious gentleman." "I perceive no sacrifice in marrying a man of principle and intelligence." "No? Not even the sacrifice of passion? Of being truly desired rather than merely approved of?" Before she could respond to this impropriety, Lord Kensington appeared beside them, his expression carefully controlled despite the tension evident in his posture. "Lady Annabella, your mother requests your assistance with the tea service," he said, his voice betraying no emotion despite the whiteness of his knuckles. As the evening concluded, Annabella found herself momentarily alone with her fiancé in the small antechamber while waiting for his carriage to be announced. "Pembroke monopolized much of your attention tonight," he observed, his tone deliberately casual. "He can be persistent in conversation." "Indeed. And does his persistence please you?" The question hung between them, weighted with unspoken implications. "His conversation occasionally amuses, but holds no particular significance." She studied his averted profile. "Does it concern you? Should it not concern a man when another pays such marked attention to his betrothed?" "I would think that depends on the nature of the betrothal." Annabella maintained her steady tone despite her quickening pulse. "Ours being a rational arrangement founded on mutual advantage rather than sentiment." He turned then, his expression suddenly fierce. "Is that truly all you believe it to be?" "It is what you proposed, my lord. A partnership of compatible minds and stations, free from the distraction of volatile emotions." "And if I find myself experiencing precisely those distractions?" The words escaped him with surprising intensity. "If I discover that rational arrangement increasingly insufficient?" Before Annabella could recover from this revelation, the butler announced his carriage, forcing a retreat behind social forms that left her question unanswered and her composure uncharacteristically disturbed. The following morning brought unexpected tidings in the form of her sister bursting into her bedroom, brandishing a newspaper. "Belle, you must read this immediately. Lord Pembroke's past is not as respectable as he presents." The morning paper contained a thinly veiled account of a scandal from 5 years prior, a ruined young woman, a hasty marriage to a widower triple her age, and Lord Pembroke's convenient departure for the Continent shortly thereafter. "This can't possibly refer to Lord Pembroke," Annabella said, though doubt colored her voice. "It most certainly does," Catherine insisted. "Lady Jarvis confirmed it at yesterday's Literary Society. His first wife died in suspicious circumstances as well, though nothing was ever proven." Annabella's mind raced through recent interactions, re-evaluating Pembroke's attentions in this troubling new context. "Does Lord Kensington know?" "I believe the entire ton knows by now. The gossip spreads faster than influenza in February." The knowledge prompted immediate concern for her fiancé, whose obvious dislike of Pembroke now appeared justified rather than jealous. She penned a brief note requesting his call at his earliest convenience, but received instead a formal reply indicating pressing business requiring his presence in Kent for several days. His abrupt departure, without personal farewell, created a hollow sensation in her chest that defied rational explanation. More disturbing was the realization that Lord Pembroke's attentions had not ceased despite the public revival of his past indiscretions. If anything, his calls became more frequent, his manner more determined. "Society's memory is conveniently short," he remarked during an afternoon visit, calmly acknowledging the rumors. "A few weeks hence, some new scandal will capture their imagination, and mine will fade into obscurity once more. The truth remains regardless of society's attention span," Annabella replied coolly. "Truth?" He smiled without warmth. "A flexible concept in London drawing rooms. But I'm more interested in your opinion than general society's. Has your estimation of me altered? I find myself questioning your motives in seeking my company so persistently, knowing my engaged state." He leaned forward. "Perhaps I recognize a kindred spirit trapped in an arrangement that promises security without satisfaction. Kensington offers you position and respectability, but can he offer passion? Understanding? The freedom to be your complete self rather than the proper lady society demands. You presume to know both my desires and my fiancé's character on limited acquaintance with either. I know that Kensington speaks of you as one might describe a particularly suitable piece of furniture, well crafted, appropriately styled, and fitting perfectly into the space prepared for it." The word stung with unexpected sharpness. "You misrepresent him." "Do I? Has he ever spoken of love, Annabella? Of desire? Or merely of compatibility and mutual advantage?" She stood, abandoning propriety in her sudden anger. "Lord Pembroke, I must ask you to leave. Your insinuations insult both my fiancé and myself." His expression shifted to calculation. "Has he told you the true reason for his sudden journey to Kent?" "Not estate business, I assure you. My sources indicate he seeks evidence regarding a certain lady's past indiscretions, evidence that would release him from an engagement he's come to regret." The accusation struck with stunning force, momentarily robbing Annabella of speech. In that hesitation, Pembroke pressed his perceived advantage. "When he breaks your engagement, and he will, remember that others recognize your value beyond your suitability as a marquis's wife." After his departure, Annabella remained motionless, confronting emotion she had long subordinated to rational consideration. The possibility that Kensington sought escape from their arrangement created a pain disproportionate to mere wounded pride. If his absence truly concealed investigations into her character rather than estate matters, it suggested a fundamental distrust incompatible with any form of partnership, practical or otherwise. For the first time in her adult life, Annabella found herself unable to analyze her situation with detached precision. The carefully constructed framework of her beliefs about marriage, about herself, threatened to collapse under the weight of feelings she had denied existence. The promised 3 days of Lord Kensington's absence extended to a week with no communication beyond a formal note to her father requesting a brief postponement of wedding preparations due to unforeseen complications. When he finally returned to London and called at Berkeley Square, Annabella received him with the composed demeanor that had become her armor, though her heart pounded with unaccustomed anxiety. "Lady Annabella." His bow was precise, his expression guarded. "I apologize for my extended absence. Estate matters frequently prove more complex than anticipated, I understand." Something flickered in his eyes, surprise, perhaps, at her acceptance of this explanation. "Indeed. Though my journey concerned more than mere property." "Oh." She maintained her pleasant smile with effort. "Lord Pembroke suggested you had quite different business in Kent." His posture stiffened immediately. "You've seen Pembroke in my absence. He calls frequently, despite the recent revival of his past scandals in the papers. And you received him. Should I have denied him entry based on rumor and innuendo?" Kensington's jaw tightened. Perhaps prudence would suggest caution when entertaining a gentleman of questionable character. "Prudence," she echoed. "Yes, that perpetual guide for suitable behavior. Tell me, my lord, was it prudence that took you to Kent, or suspicion?" His expression shifted from control to wary. "What exactly did Pembroke tell you?" "That you sought evidence of indiscretions in my past. Evidence that would allow you to break our engagement without social penalty." The color drained from his face. "He said this to you directly?" With remarkable composure for such an accusation. Kensington moved abruptly, pacing several steps before turning back to her with unexpected vehemence. "And you believed him? You thought me capable of such dishonorable behavior?" The genuine outrage in his voice gave her pause. "Your sudden departure without proper explanation, following our rather tense conversation, suggested something beyond routine estate matters. So you assumed the worst of me." His voice had grown dangerously quiet. "Despite our understanding, despite my consistent conduct, you credited Pembroke's malicious fabrication. What was I to think? You left without farewell, extended your absence without explanation, and sent formal notes to my father rather than to me. Because I was investigating Pembroke, not you." The words burst from him with such force that Annabella stepped back in surprise. His sudden interest in you, his convenient reappearance in society after years abroad, it seemed suspicious even before the newspapers revived his past scandals. "I went to Kent because his first wife's family estate borders my eastern properties. I sought information about his character, his history, to protect you, not to escape our engagement." Silence fell between them, heavy with implication. "To protect me," she finally repeated. "From what, precisely?" "From a man who preys on vulnerable women. From a fortune hunter with 2 suspicious marriages behind him. From—" He stopped abruptly, as if suddenly aware of revealing too much. "From a rival for my affections," she supplied quietly. His gaze snapped to hers, emotions warring in his expression before control reasserted itself. "I would not presume to dictate your feelings, Lady Annabella. Our arrangement was clear from the beginning, a practical partnership without the complication of sentiment." "Yes," she said slowly, studying him with new perception, "that was our agreement. Yet you investigated a man who showed interest in me. You appeared whenever he called. You brought books that would appeal to my specific interests. These actions suggest sentiment rather than practicality." Kensington remained silent, his breathing uneven. "I find myself confused, my lord," Annabella continued, her voice strengthening. "You claim to want marriage without emotional entanglement, yet display every sign of jealousy, an emotion decidedly at odds with your stated position." "I am not." He stopped, exhaled sharply, then continued with visible effort. "Perhaps I have not been entirely honest. With you, or with myself?" "In what regard?" He met her gaze directly, his composure finally cracking to reveal raw vulnerability. "In believing I could maintain perfect detachment while in your company. In thinking rational appreciation could substitute for deeper feeling. In pretending I sought only a suitable wife rather than—" He broke off again, his control visibly fragmenting. "Rather than," she prompted, her heart racing. "Rather than you, specifically. With your sharp mind and sharper tongue. Your calculations that never quite manage to disguise your passionate nature. Your eyes that reveal everything your words attempt to conceal." His voice had grown rough with emotion. I told myself I wanted a practical arrangement because I feared offering more would drive you away. You made your disdain for sentiment abundantly clear. Annabella found herself momentarily speechless, her carefully constructed worldview tilting beneath this revelation. You never indicated, she began. How could I? You dismissed every hint of affection as unnecessary performance. You spoke of marriage as a business merger, of emotion as a temporary distraction. I shaped my proposal to match what I believed you wanted. And what I wanted matched what I believed possible, she whispered, the truth crystallizing with stunning clarity. I convinced myself practical arrangements were preferable because I never imagined genuine connection could exist alongside respect and compatibility. Annabella. Her name, without title or formality, resonated between them. I went to Kent to protect you because the thought of Pembroke manipulating your good opinion was intolerable. Not because he threatened our arrangement, but because he threatened you. I have not been in search of a convenient Marchioness these past months. I have been falling in love with you, despite every rational argument against such vulnerability. The word hung in the air between them, love, that sentiment she had dismissed as transient and unreliable. Yet standing before her was a man whose actions had consistently demonstrated precisely what his words had denied: devotion, protection, attentiveness. Not the calculated gestures of a man securing an advantageous match, but the instinctive responses of genuine affection. I've been a fool, she said softly. We both have. He stepped closer. I presented myself as the embodiment of practicality because I thought it would appeal to you. In doing so, I denied the very feelings that drew me to you in the first place. And I insisted on a marriage without sentiment because I feared offering my heart and finding it unwanted. The admission felt like shedding a constricting garment, allowing her to breathe fully for the first time in years. We've been performing roles for each other, neither daring to be honest about what we truly desire. And what do you truly desire, Annabella? His voice had grown husky, his eyes intent on her face. Connection without calculation. Passion alongside partnership? She drew a steadying breath. You, Kensington. Not merely your title or position or compatibility, but you, with your controlled exterior that fails to disguise the intensity beneath, your protective instincts, your ability to see past my own carefully constructed defenses. He closed the remaining distance between them, propriety forgotten as he took her hands in his. I love you. Not for your suitability or your family connections or your dowry, but for your brilliant mind and the heart you try so hard to protect. Marry me not because it makes practical sense, but because we can build something extraordinary together. I believe I loved you before I recognized the emotion, she confessed, her voice unsteady. I mistook it for intellectual compatibility, for mutual respect, safer concepts than acknowledging I had given my heart to a man who claimed not to want it. I want everything you are willing to give, he said fervently. Your heart, your mind, your future, on whatever terms you set. No more terms, Annabella replied, emotion making her voice tremble. No more contracts or conditions. Just truth between us. Their marriage took place with considerably more sentiment than either had initially anticipated. The Marquess of Kensington looked at his bride not with the approval of a man securing a suitable match, but with the undisguised adoration of a man who had found his heart's companion. Lady Annabella, for her part, abandoned calculation in favor of certainty, and not the mathematical precision that had previously governed her decisions, but the profound assurance of having found the perfect equation in the most unexpected of forms. Lord Pembroke departed for the Continent shortly after the wedding was announced, his schemes for securing Annabella's fortune thwarted by the very quality he had attempted to exploit, her intelligence, which ultimately recognized genuine devotion beneath its careful disguise. In the years that followed, the Marchioness of Kensington became known for her astronomical discoveries, her husband for his unwavering support of her intellectual pursuits, and their marriage for disproving the most practical of Lady Annabella's former beliefs, that love was merely a poetic fallacy. They discovered instead that it was the most practical foundation of all, for a partnership that grew stronger with each passing year, as steady and enduring as the stars she so loved to study.